Hey guys! If you've seen my other videos, you probably know that I have done a lot of furniture upcycling and flipping for roughly over a year and a half consistently. I did a little bit before that, but it wasn't that much. I've done enough to know how frequently I make very easily avoidable mistakes. So today we are going to be looking at 3 different pieces that I made while upcycling furniture and what I ultimately learned from those mistakes, because that is the value in mistakes, is to learn. You get that for free, the wisdom I've been holding on to, collected over my many years. These 3 furniture projects I'm going to show you, I ended up really not liking them at all, and I sold them as soon as I could. I made the tiniest bit of profit, but you'll see why it hardly counts for anything when you actually see them. So let's get started. So this piece, I will admit, is certainly not horrible. I bought it on Marketplace, used it for a year, and then I didn't really need it anymore. And so I decided that I would kind of give it a little pizzazz and then try to sell it and make a little bit of profit. I had a general idea of what I wanted it to look like, and unlike the other 2 projects you're gonna see, this one actually ended up looking like my idea. But the thing is, since I knew I probably wasn't going to keep it, I think I negotiated on a couple of decisions that would have really just made the process a lot easier going through. So as you see here, I started spray painting on a very windy day with just a tarp down, and a bunch of crap from the yard flew into my wet paint, including a hair of my own, so that's great. And I essentially just had to let it dry and then pick out what I could and resand it and repaint it, and it just ended up making it a much more laborious process. Whereas if I had just waited for ideal weather to paint, I probably would not have ended up with this. So the good news is that I did end up being able to sell it for twice what I paid for it, and that was nice, and the lady who bought it really, really liked it. But since I made a lot of careless mistakes on the way, it really just made it such a process that I did not enjoy it at all. And by the time I was getting rid of it, it was like, good riddance, get out of my house. And I didn't even take much final footage of it because I really wasn't that proud of it. So curious what you guys think of how it turned out. What's up, fam? I'm cool. As you might be able to tell by the orange straps behind me, I picked up a piece of furniture I found on Marketplace for $10. Also, I didn't realize I had just pinned my hair up to wash my face this morning. Look, what is this? It's cute. This piece was the top of a hutch/desk piece, but when I picked this up, I had a vague idea of what I wanted to do. But the problem in this scenario is that it really stayed that way. I fully admit I lean on my intuition a lot, and I tend to just figure things out as I go. But the big issue when you don't plan is how much of your own time and supplies you end up wasting by not just doing some thorough planning. It is not that much work for me to do a quick mock-up drawing on a piece of paper and figuring out what colors I want to do, how I want to, execute different shapes, and maybe doing a little bit of research on how to get a really good cut on particle board. So I spray painted one color and then decided that color made the top look like a race flag or a pizzeria floor, and then I had to go buy more supplies to move on and do it better. I did the same exact thing though for the inside color. I got halfway through doing one color and then I changed my mind. And this is okay if it happens every now and then. But the thing is knowing it's so avoidable, and when I change my mind too many times, it's easy to get fatigued working on the same project, and my craftsmanship kind of suffers because of that. So really, it ended up being just okay, not a disaster, but certainly not a piece that I'm super proud of. I still made a small profit on this one, but considering the time and supplies I put into it, I don't know if I really made enough for it to be worth it, which is funny because at the time that I sold it, Maverick actually thought I priced it way too low, but I felt embarrassed trying to get more for it because I didn't think that it looked up to snuff. And all in all, lesson learned, the more you're going to change a piece, the more planning you should really do.
I think that's a cat. Looks like a big chicken from here.
Okay, the final piece to me really actually like irks me to look at. I feel like there is so much wasted potential here. It's a genuine antique. It had the wood burn stamp inside and everything, but I had never worked with broken veneer like this, and I really didn't know what I was doing, so I just ended up filling it with wood filler and then painting over it. And I also rushed through a scuff sanding and then went straight in with a spray color on a very humid evening, and the paint bubbled up because of it. I ended up just leaning into the whole antiqued paint vibe as if I totally meant to do it. Thanks, art school. But I honestly wish I had never painted it, or at least if I had painted it, I wish I had done a more neutral color. Like, I think this would have actually looked really good with black. I think the wooden doors would have popped so much more. I also wish I hadn't gone copper on the handles. I think it ended up looking actually really cheap. I also made a very small profit, but I almost hesitate to call it a profit because it was so little, and after time and supplies, it was hardly worth it when everything is factored in. In conclusion, for all of these projects, I knew soon after I started that I really didn't want to keep them for my own home, and that really seriously affected my attention span in a very negative way. However, I think it's a really good thing to get humbled every now and then by a failed project and be forced to revisit the fundamentals and make yourself go back and do things right. A few things for me. I need to remember to paint in ideal conditions and not compromise on that when it's humid or windy or whatever. And I should not be making that call according to my own impatient attitude. Something else is that I really should not be skimping on sanding really thoroughly, and when it needs to happen, doing a coat of primer. Something that you guys may have noticed by seeing the way that I do my furniture flips is a lot of the time I skip the primer step because I'm buying paint and primer duos. I think that that's a problem on those pieces, specifically more slick pieces, that a scuff sanding is not always enough. A primer bonds to the material and then the paint bonds to the primer. And so that's the whole point of it. That's something I need to not be lazy about. I was the kid in school who annoyed the heck out of her teachers because I hated to write a first draft of any kind of essay. So I would just like sit and like labor and squeeze out what I felt like was a worthy final draft. And then when they would ask me to revise, they'd be like, "Oh, great first draft. Now fix it and make it even better." And I'm like, no, see, that's the point. I made it right the first time. Another thing I learned is that I need to actually think through and sometimes even draw out my ideas. You know, sometimes you find yourself pleasantly surprised by something you didn't think would work, and I'm kind of counting on that maybe too much of the time. So I need to actually like take the time, draw it out. I can draw a quick sketch of a piece of furniture, right? And you can too, even if it's difficult for you to draw, just do roughly, because even just seeing two colors together will kind of help you gauge how it's going to look a lot better. And the final thing for me, this is just a lifelong lesson I think I will be, as I said, learning my whole life long, is that I really need to take my time on execution. Sometimes I look back and I go, that could have been a lot better if I had just taken my time. I definitely need to slow down and do things right when we're talking about execution. So that's something that I continue to learn. I think ultimately becoming a better creative absolutely means growing in your patience, both with yourself and with the natural time that things take, whether it be to dry or to go through a certain process. Take the time. And I really want my attitude to improve in this, and this is part of why I'm sharing this. I want to be willing to return to the start when things don't look good and when things aren't working out. I want to be okay with starting over. And this goes even and especially for when things are not for my own home. Like I said, I think when I'm not making something for me or my own home, sometimes I can like lose interest, and I'm just kind of like, okay, what's the best I can make it while also not really taking that much time, and you know, I can just pass it along and someone else can enjoy it. And I want it to be good. I want them to actually enjoy it and not get it and be like, okay, thanks, I'm gonna go repaint this now. Ultimately, I want to do everything with a spirit of excellence, and that doesn't mean the most excellent that there can ever be in the world. That just means my own excellence. So actually applying myself to the best of my abilities. That's something I believe that we're all capable of doing. Well, I hope you guys got a little something out of this video. I appreciate you sticking around this long. If you liked it, go ahead and give me the old thumbs up. If you want to see more stuff like this, go ahead and subscribe. I try to upload every Sunday. Either way, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!